Hello and welcome to our final episode for 2024. It's recap time, and this is where I get to fly solo, cyberspacing or cyber hopping across the world, reconnecting with our gracious guest from this fourth quarter. And by now, you're probably familiar with our approach. We chunk our 13 episodes this quarter, as it is, into four groups, i.e., we have clusters of three, or our last cluster will be four guests per group. And thanks to our brilliant marketing team, we're able to incorporate each of the promotional intros to save you listening to my wonderfully crafted radio-friendly voice every time. So here we go with our first three guests. First up, Dr. Michael Gerharz. Then we have Yesim Nicholson and Richard Maloney. What a great trio to get us underway in, I think it was October, right? October of this year. So let's have a look. Let's trip back to the beginning where we first met Dr. Gerharz, episode 124, I believe. And this chat took us to Cologne in Germany, which was kind of exciting for me to go back to a country that has had such an influence over my career over the years. Dr. Gerharz is a communication expert, coach, who helps other leaders across the globe find the right words and make a bigger impact. He's the author of The Path of Strategic Impact, which is what we spent most of our time chatting about. So if you want, check out the promo tracks for a deeper insight. And can you tell us a little bit more about the business itself, the core philosophy, perhaps, when it comes to the communication coaching?
Yeah, well, basically my mission is to help people, leaders, businesses to find the right words. Because, well, kind of my vision is that I imagine a world where those of us who have an important story to tell and a story that has the potential to change the world, find the words to do so, right? To make that happen. And so often I see that there's a lack of appreciation for that, and that sometimes people are not really know where to start, right? I mean, something that very often happens is that you're very passionate about the things that you do, that you deeply believe in, that this could change the world, that this is a brilliant idea, and that our product might be way superior to the competition, but still you see the competition running circles around you. And you might even be frustrated because they have these natural born salespeople who have no issue in promising their customers the blue from the skies. Something that as a passionate person, as a passionate believer, you would never want to do. And so what I often see is that those people almost feel like giving up because, well, they see that they have an unfair disadvantage. But I think that's exactly the other way around, that actually you might have an unfair advantage because you care so deeply. So if you manage to find words that resonate deeply with your audience, then you will have an unfair advantage because your product is actually superior. And I think that you are uniquely positioned to do so precisely because you care so much. That means that you listen closely to your audience. You understand their problems probably better than your competition.
Next up, we're visiting Cotswolds in the west of the UK for our first time on this show and speaking with our guest, longtime coach, as well as author, Miss Yesim Nicholson. Yesim is an international career coach and founder of Yes Career Coaching. It's a platform that offers groups and individual coaching for people who dream of making a career change. She's also the author of a very interesting book, Ready to Quit Your Job. And as usual, this is where we spend a lot of our time discussing. The book's available on Amazon or through her website. And we dissect the messages woven throughout this book. So bring a pen and pad, particularly if you like taking plenty of notes. Time for the track for this conversation. So tune in and watch. There's a lot of prediction out there, of course, that singularity is on the horizon. So let's see. I guess it will definitely change everything. It's already changing everything, but it will change it in many different ways, I think. So
Yeah.
what's the plan of the future for you and for Yes Career Coaching? Are you looking at anything on the horizon yourself?
Well, there may or may not be a second book.
Ah,
I'm just in the very, very early stages of starting to research another topic that's very dear to my heart, which has come off the back. It's funny, before I wrote this book, I never thought I would write a book. I just, it just wasn't something that I thought I would do. And I remember listening to an interview recently with an author who said the same. He said, I never thought I'd write a book. And then I did write a book. And then as I was writing the first book, I thought, I'm never going to have anything else to say. This is the only book I'll ever write. And then he did go on to write a second and a third and a fourth book. And I'm finding myself in exactly that. I was like, I'm never going to write a book. It's not on my radar. Then I did write a book. And then as the first book was coming to an end, I had this idea for a second book. And now I can't stop thinking about that. So it's quite interesting. It's quite an interesting
it
thing to
is.
go through. So I'm
Yeah.
just in the sort of very, very early stages of researching what might go into that book. So there's that. And then, I mean, I really love my coaching. I love working with people. I love my podcast. So yeah, more of the same for now. Watch
Mm,
this space. Ask me again
watch
in a
this
year's
space.
time. Yeah.
Next, we're visiting Melbourne, Australia, and chatting with the founder and CEO of Quality Minds Global, Mr. Richard Maloney. He's also the author of The Minds of Winning Teams, Injury Free, and a book that we spend a lot of time dissecting called Stress Free: How to Thrive Under Pressure in Unprecedented Times. Here's the track from our discussion back in October. Let's jump into one of your books. I know you mentioned Injury Free. That I haven't read that one. I'm sorry. The one I read was Stress Free, and which is the most recent, by the way.
Yeah, stress free.
Stress Free.
I created that just on when COVID was here to help people out.
Right. Well, let's jump into that a little bit because it really, for me, helped frame the business you're in and what you do. I don't want to go into too deep. We want people to buy the book, but
Yeah.
If we can just sort of paint a bit of a broad picture about what it's all about and where it came from, what was the purpose behind writing it?
So the purpose was initially to help people out who were entering COVID with me. And I was like, okay, well, I have the information I'd love to share with people who are now lonely or caught in a part of the world that they can't escape. And then, so yeah, the essence of the book is quite simply how to thrive under pressure in unprecedented times, which is COVID. But quite simply, it's a reflection of my entire management of myself, but in a way that's put in little actions and activities and a bit of awareness along the way. But conquering yourself is the number one thing in life, in my opinion. Emotional intelligence, introspection depends on what your goals are and who you want to become. Myself, I enjoy being not perfect too. I enjoy being, perfectly imperfect. I enjoy being human, knowing full well that I don't know why I'm here, and I reckon it's a good thing because, we're in the veil of forgetfulness, and that's a really perfect thing. Because if we actually knew who we are and why we're here, well, then you would put your feet up and smoke a cigar and fill yourself up with a beautiful grain Shiraz, right? But we don't know, and I love the puzzle behind that is because I am just going day by day. Sometimes I do the right thing to myself, and sometimes I'm learning. And so understanding, I guess, it's seeing yourself more universally, and the more you step outside yourself and to understand who you really are in a way that's not really understood because we don't really know. We know that we may be part of some universal connection and this, that, and the other, but the fact is we're not supposed to know.
Well, that rounds out the first of our trios. Before we jump headlong into the next guest block, we're going to pause here for a short commercial. Sorry about this, but we're in business. Did you know that at Coaching for Companies, we offer small business consulting across various industrial sectors, most specifically engineering, manufacturing, and construction. We leverage our proven Forex growth formula to assist company leaders identify the gaps and put strategies in place that help our business performance, or help their business performance in particular, explode. Head over to our website and complete the free business health check. And if you choose to, it's your choice, contact us for a free, no obligation chat. Our team is there waiting and really ready to help you and support you. All right. So with that said, quarter one underway, or sorry, the first group is already complete. Now let's move on to the second group, and we're going to start back in October, and then we'll lead into November 2024. Our guests were Dr. Kristin Wild, Mr. Timothy Hughes, and Miss Catherine Robertson. So starting with episode 127, we visit our guest, who's an award-winning holistic health practitioner, educator, and speaker, who's based in Kelowna, British Columbia in Canada. So Dr. Kristin Wild. Dr. Wild's best known for supporting people experiencing chronic illnesses and mental health conditions, and for her contributions in helping women and children escape and recover from domestic abuse. It's a really insightful conversation. So please check out this promo track. I read a really neat, well, I thought it was quite neat definition or description. It says, imagine that you're an army, and your body is sort of the complete army, and the soldiers within the body turn against the body. It's sort of like your defense mechanism starts to challenge your whole self, right?
Think about that. When the neurochemicals from your brain and the foods you're putting into your body are communicating to your cells, hey, we're in survival mode. We don't have any nutrition. We don't have, and there's all this cortisol in here. Your cells go, okay, let's downgrade the DNA. We'll put out crappy DNA essentially so that we can survive. We're in survival mode. And so that's what the cells are doing. You're made up of trillions of individual organisms to create this walking, talking being. It's pretty amazing. It's a miracle, really. And so what we need to do is clear those cells, clear those pathways so that nutrition can get in, so that those new healthy neurochemicals can attach to cells and say, hey, we're safe. The nervous system calms down. And then what happens? The genes start to upregulate again, and we get that healthy gene production. And those diseases that had popped up in the garbage DNA now disappear.
From Kristin, we move on to connect with Mr. Timothy Hughes, and we visit Old Blighty again to chat with this social guru extraordinaire. Tim resides in London. He's the co-founder and the CEO of the global social selling company DLA Ignite. He was listed as one of the top 8 sales experts to follow globally by LinkedIn in 2021, and has been ranked as one of the most influential in social selling by Analytica. His book by the same name, Social Selling: Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers, is what we spend a large portion of our time discussing. So this was an educational opportunity for me as well. So please check out this track, and I'm sure you'll agree. Do you need 1,000 members in your community to generate a call? Like in the old days, we used to work on the 100-10-1 principle, right? So is there anything like that in social selling that you can hang your hat on to say we need 1,000?
So I will tell you, I'm going to tell you 3 things that you need to do, but you can send each of your salespeople, anybody in your organization can send 200 connection requests a week through LinkedIn.
Right.
And that's your ability to have 200 conversations. that's really, you know, what you can do. And it's really about, for the time, you know, we always recommend people time block time, just as you would do maybe time block time for cold calling, and time block time for doing that. But, you know, you can do it in an hour. It's not difficult, and we teach people how to do that. So let me talk about the three things. So there's three basic things that you need to have.
Right.
So the first thing that you need to have is to have what we call a biocentric profile. Some people call it a personal brand. I don't like the term personal brand because it kind of sounds like Brian Solis or Mark Schaefer or something that I can't achieve. You know, I'm just a salesperson. I'm not someone that's been on, you know, it kind of feels like I'm going from 0 to 100, where really what I need to do is go from 0 to 1 or 2. So we call it a biocentric profile. So this is a profile that when your buyer looks at you, and they will do if they're checking you out, they go, that Wayne Brown person looks interesting. I wonder if he could help me. He does sailing at the weekend. That's really interesting. I go sailing as well. I wonder if that would be that would be interesting. So we have clients that are doing multi-million-dollar deals purely on the fact that people are walking across social and saying, "You look interesting. Can you help me?" This is how you're going to get into deals early, because we know people are searching on social media for what we're selling. So how can we be in those searches? The second thing that you need is you need to have a wide and varied network. It doesn't matter how many people are in it, you just need to keep growing it.
So rounding out our second group, as well as taking us into the halfway mark, is our guest from down under. We're heading home, well, close to home. Catherine's located in Sydney, Australia, and she's a wellness consultant with 20 years in the pharmaceutical industry before taking up coaching and consulting. And she has an acute awareness and understanding of the challenges that leaders, employees, healthcare professionals, and patients face in the modern world. Combining her understanding and her experience of organizational structure with a background in sales, positive psychology, and coaching, Catherine has a really unique skill set which has enabled her to design and deliver strategic wellbeing programs for major international clients, as well as to support leadership teams in wellbeing advisory capacities. See for yourself in the following track.
I'm going to pay attention to the world around me and see if there's anything that captures my eye, which I can utilize as a positive experience. One phrase I like to share with people is thinking of yourself as a hunter of beauty.
All right. Well, team, it's time for another commercial. So at Coaching for Companies, we offer 3 core services. As mentioned previously, we support small business in the industrial sectors through our performance and growth consultation. Another service is the ET Development Division. Now, this is our biggest division. This is where the ET project sites sit, and we offer, through the ET project, we offer 4 free services. We have these weekly podcasts where you are right now. We have our monthly live broadcasts. We have our quarterly masterclasses, as well as the quarterly challenges. In parallel with the project, we have our ET Academy. Now, the Academy is for both B2B, so business to business, so we work with organizations and companies, or for B2C. And this is our formal premium side of our executive skills development. It's where we offer short-term or short-form virtual masterminds. We also have tiered flagship long-duration development programs running anywhere from between 3 days to 12 months, plus the pinnacle of the Academy, our elite destination mastermind conducted in exotic locations somewhere around the globe 3 times a year. So if you want to find out more, please head over to our website at coachingforcompanies.com. Send us a query or book in a call, and we're there to support you. All right, so we're back again. We're ready for group 3, and we have 3 more very interesting guests that join us. Mr. Arnaud Lucas, Miss Daria Rudnik, and Mr. Chase Friedman. So let's begin with Arnaud. We're in episode 131, by the way, and we head over to one of my favorite US cities, to Boston, Massachusetts, visiting technology expert Dr. or Mr. Arnaud Lucas. Arnaud is a seasoned leader who inspires and leads high-growth, forward-thinking, technology-first organizations and aims to maximize return on investment as well as customer experience while driving sustainable product, revenue, and business growth. He bridges the gap between strategic ambition and technical execution by providing unparalleled clarity to translate abstract business goals into tangible technology and organizational roadmaps. If you have an interest in tech, then check out this track. What are some of the biggest challenges that companies are facing with technology and scaling their organization? What are you coming across as you engage in these different companies?
So for me, technology is a tool. And you're right, it's a tool that's everywhere in used in a company, right? Tool for collaboration, tool for forecasting, tool for delivering the product and what you want to do for the customer. But ultimately, I think what's important is really, is the people that you have in the company and how you empower them, how you structure teams and how you support them, including with technology. And also, most importantly, making sure you do the right thing for the customer. Right. So I strongly believe, and that's something I learned, especially at Wayfair, that if you do the right thing for the customer will buy. And so that's how you generate business, right? Is you solve the problem for the customer, you do the right thing for the customer will come. Or not come, but at least buy. And then you need customer to come in some ways. That's marketing. And technology is just here to help out in any way we can. And so one of the big roles as a technologist is not just technology as a result, right? Because it's at the end of the day, it's how the technology organization can deliver the biggest impact for the business. And the technology organization deliver the biggest impact by using technology to do so. And as a technical or technologist leader, my goal is to have the best team.
Next up, we're heading to a new location, for me at least, Tel Aviv in Israel, and meeting up with team architect and Adria.ai founder and CEO, Miss Daria Rudnik. Daria is a fellow systemic team coach, by the way, having studied together under the guidance of Professor Peter Hawkins and David Clutterbuck. Today, Daria helps ambitious leaders scale their impact by elevating their teams. She does this through her team and leadership coaching, organizational consulting, assessments, and of course, her AI assistant. Through her 15-year career, Daria has helped leaders create high-performing work cultures for more than 5,000 people, ranging from fast-growing startups to Fortune 500 companies. Team coaching, for me, is the future of coaching. So if you're interested in checking out this, then have a listen to this promo track. Let's go a step deeper then and start to look at some of the unique challenges, perhaps, as well as the opportunities when it now comes to those virtual or remote teams. And I know this is what you do a lot of your work around. Let's start with some of the perhaps more common issues that you're coming across in helping organizations deal with remote or virtual teams.
I think it's like no surprise that the most common challenge is communication. Communication and relationship building. Things like I feel like I'm isolated. I feel I don't feel my team members. I don't know what they're doing. Lots of like things that speak that people don't have that feeling of connection that they used to have in the office. The reason is that it's not the remote team is not working. It's not that you cannot have those connections. It means that you need to proactively build those connections in a bit different way than you would be doing that in the office. It's the whole like new way of thinking about work dynamics and workplace when it's remote or hybrid rather than when it's offsite, and all those practices that we used to have in the office and just taking them, moving them into the Zoom, it's not gonna work. I mean, the whole work process need to be reshaped with asynchronous communication and specific meetings and or at least parts of the meeting for social connection, like proactively, consistently building those social connections with team members, connecting people with each other, not just manager, team member, so that manager is not a bottleneck for the team operations. They communicate with each other. So this kind of thing. So it's all about like how we structure communication and how we structure work processes in the remote setting.
All right, we've reached our final guest in the third group, and we're heading to Manhattan Beach, Los Angeles, to chat with Mr. Chase Friedman. Chase is a brand specialist, coach, and founder of Vanquish Media Group, a boutique digital media that collaborates with world-renowned brands, thought leaders, and digital influencers by championing premium branded content, digital storytelling, and integrated marketing strategies, spanning multiple platforms and genres, including entertainment, lifestyle, education. Vanquish has launched over 100 branded content campaigns that have generated over 50 million in e-commerce revenue. I love talking with marketing experts, so check out the track and see what you can learn. I've often asked myself the questions through my career when I work with different companies. The whole process of identifying your values and aligning with those values as a corporate entity. For me, there's this question mark about how authentic are the values ever going to be, right? Because we're trying to attract an audience by stating a value. It feels like, I'm not saying that's the case, right? But that in some way is how it comes off in many cases. I'm wondering, in your case, when you work as a CMO or you go in as a fractional CMO with companies, is there a specific approach that you have for building their values or identifying their values and really flushing out how authentic these are going to be?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's two good questions in that, right? Where does it come from and how are you sort of walking the talk? There are certainly a lot of organizations out there that, unfortunately, are just checking a box, right? They're value signaling, as we kind of call it, purpose washing or greenwashing, kind of more, commonly known. And consumers are far more intuitive than that, right? They can see through the BS, so to speak. And they will call you on it. You don't just value your signals when it's convenient for you and when there's sort of a hot button issue trending in the news. You do it 24/7, year round, internally, externally. Where that comes from, I'm a firm believer it's got to come from within, right? When I work with a client, whether it's a solopreneur or a larger organization, I believe that personal development begets professional development, especially for someone starting their own business. What is inside of you? What is that driving force? What is your why you do what you do, what you believe in that is inspiring you to run this business beyond the bottom line? So when you're looking at a larger organization, the best place you got to start is within your own ranks. Not looking at what the audience you think your customer is going to like, but all stakeholders from the top on down to the bottom. You get a lot of this sometimes, what we call purpose paradox, right? So you might have a C-suite adopt this well-sounding and even well-intentioned purpose, but if you run it down the flagpole to the people, that are actually in the trenches, the employees, they wouldn't be able to recite that for you if you know, put a gun to their head, nor would they say, is that authentic? So again, making sure that you are listening to everyone in the organization, what lights them up, what do they believe in? And once you can get that right, only then is it appropriate, I think, to kind of then expand upon those values outwardly. But again, this is not talking the talk. This is not putting it on a social media post or on a campaign ad. You've really got to put time and attention and effort and resources into creating that impact. And there's a variety of ways to do that. But again, that strategic purpose has got to start with a lot of vulnerability and being honest with you know, why you exist as a company.
Well, we're at the end of our third group, so that means it's commercial break time again. So as you probably have heard already, I've introduced two of our three service functions: small business consulting, executive development, and our third area of focus is coaching. It was where we started. Whether it's for business, career, leadership, teams, or group coaching, we've got you covered in all possible ways. The coaches at Coaching for Companies, C4C, we're seasoned professionals. We've run our own companies, worked as advisors, mentored executives, coached extensively with our global clients. And we also ensure that we keep you current by providing the latest technology through our tripod coaching packages. When you sign up with us, you're given access to your own AI coach, as well as a human coach, and both are combined with a coaching management platform where clients have direct access to their notes, the tools, the templates, the action plans, and so forth. It really does ensure that we keep you, the client, as our center of focus and attention. If you're interested, then why not head over to our website? If you heard me say Coaching for Companies, that's the number 4, coachingforcompanies.com, and then connect when you're ready. All right, so with that, we're back for the final group. And as mentioned right at the start, this time we have 4 guests. This is our baker's dozen coming into fruition. Hopefully you can sense the enormous value on offer here as we work our way through these amazing leaders. My hope is that these conversations are bringing you equal enjoyment and learning, and I know my own knowledge continues to grow exponentially as a result of the opportunity to chat with these people. So our final 4 guests in order of appearance were Miss Kanchan Chanana, Mr. Craig Meriwether, Miss Bessi Graham, and our final guest, Mr. John Dwyer. Our 10th guest for this quarter is located somewhere quite special. At least I think it is. It's a city called Lausanne. It's located in the North Shore area of Lake Geneva in Switzerland. And we're there to chat with Kanchan. Kanchan describes herself as an observer, curious, and a striving human who's actively broken given norms, rules, and excuses for the past 2 decades to unlock the other side of being. She's a first-generation professional in STEM and management. Her upbringing came with considerable challenges, however, from the many norms, beliefs, and rules that she felt suffocated by, to any mention of money, for example, was just out of the question. Her academic journey was one that proved adventurous, to say the least, starting in an all-girls government school and deciding to pursue mechanical engineering, where she was the only girl in a class of 50. Her professional career started in a male-dominated world as well, in the automotive procurement scene, and you'll need to listen to the full episode to learn more, but this is truly an episode I'd encourage you to learn about or to listen to, because Kanchan goes deep into some of the inequalities of being female, but not only females, some of the inequalities in large corporations. So really interesting episode. Check it out and see what you think. I'm really enjoying listening to this conversation because, you know, there's so many things that we talk about as educators, and, you know, I'm listening to you and I'm seeing and hearing this personal resilience that you've had to find. And I'm curious, how did that resilience stay maintained? Like, did you have anyone supporting you? Were you totally against everyone? Or like the resilience itself, you know, if you look at Mandela as a great example, and there's a Japanese expression that says fall down 7 times, get up 8, paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Resilience is such a powerful thing that we all have the ability, but seldom, I would say, many of us face the challenges that you've probably encountered. So I'm just curious, how did it all play out for you as you look back at it?
Yeah, I think as I look back, so just to give a timestamp to my journey, the starting point was around July 2021, and I left them in April 23. So I would be honest that I started with, let's say, I always thought that I'm a brave woman, and I started with that hypothesis in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But right in July and onwards till even after I left, the situations were absolutely crazy and tough for me. So to give you some specifics, right, I got threats, written threats, I got legal threats, I got abusive language, I got racist remarks, I got sexist remarks. I got people could shout at me. I think it is also to the listeners we have. I think I just want to tell that whenever there is a difficult situation, one of the things which I think the environment does is that they increase the frequency and intensity of psychological violence. So I think that's how I call it. And it was just piling up, and there was a point when I broke down. I would be honest here. I broke down and I took time to really stop, let's say, the further addition of these events, and to at least process whatever I had gotten in very, very objective way. Because I think one thing which I really like being a business professional is that it's very fact based and data oriented. So I like to keep that even in the personal space.
Mm-hmm.
And I could take these inputs, right? But when I distanced myself, and then it was very easy for me to take them as data inputs, right? And not really personal, anything personal, right? And when I started to analyze, and that's when also I was trying to read philosophy, because philosophy is the topic which essentially questions the reason to exist.
Right.
And in a way, for me, it was a battle where I was trying to find my reason to exist there or somewhere else. So it was that actually added a lot of force in me. And then soon I was clear that which are the criterias will make it a go, and which are the criterias will not make it a go. And I was then very confident, but it did take at least 3 to 4 months downtime for me to understand and make sure that I'm very objective and I'm not bringing my emotions or my feelings inside this problem statement. And also what happened, I think the big shift, Wayne, which happened in this 3-4 months was I started to see the problem as a macro problem and not as a conference problem.
Right.
That is very, very important. So even when I was standing up in the organization, it was never Kanchan's problem. The problem I formulated was almost 5 to 6 colleagues and not less. So it was not, anyways, never me per se.
Okay, for our next guest, we're heading to Arizona, and interestingly, not the arid hot plains that we hear the most about, but a city in the northern ranges of the state that's called Flagstaff. And we're connecting with Mr. Craig Meriwether. Craig's a mindset coach, helping people eliminate negative emotions and trauma so they can reach their full potential. Craig is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, a medical hypnosis specialist, a neuro-linguistic programming specialist, and founder of Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy, helping people eliminate the limiting beliefs that may be keeping them from reaching their true potential. If you want tips on how to ace your next test, check out this episode, because here's where you'll find out the answer. You started at the beginning by talking about how you healed yourself.
Yeah.
What sort of time frame are we talking about here? We're talking years, I'm guessing.
This in my own journey, it took a while just because I didn't know what I was doing. And so it was a lot of trial and error, is a lot of on and off again, where we moved from one town to another, well, from one state to another,
right?
Starting new jobs, got a new baby, all this stuff. So it wasn't like I was spending, 5-6 hours a day working on myself. But there's books to read, there's research to do.
Sure.
And then trying these techniques and tools, and okay, that didn't work so well. I still feel awful. And then finally, everybody's talking about hypnotherapy, but it's probably the hypnotherapy that helped me change the most. That's what helped me do the deep healing work I needed to do. But then there's kind of two parts to this. There's the deep healing work you want to do to heal that hurt and that pain. And then there's that strengthening and empowering work you want to do to increase the joy, the confidence, the happiness, the peace of mind and body. And there's a certain relentlessness to that kind of work.
Okay.
Because, to master anything, whether it's getting a black belt in Taekwondo or Judo, whether it's learning a foreign language, it's learning a musical instrument, it's going to take practice. And just like your physical health, though, it's not just do it once or twice and then you're happy for the rest of your life. Life is full of challenges. Our parents get older, our children get older. They go into school, they get out of school, they go to work, they get divorced. We get divorced. It's like life is full of challenges.
Right.
And so there's a certain relentlessness, not only to your physical health, but to your mental health and your emotional health. The Dalai Lama still meditates every day. This guy's 90 years old, I think, at this point.
Right.
And, being head of the Tibetan Buddhist spiritual community, as one got to have a lot of responsibility, but he's also been dealing with the issues of Tibet for the last 80 years or so. And, the Chinese government is still arresting his monks and torturing his monks and still bulldozing down his monasteries in Tibet and to build roads and buildings and primarily to give him the middle finger.
All right, so for our penultimate guest, we're heading back to Melbourne, Australia, and meeting with Miss Bessi Graham and chatting with her about a subject she's more than just passionate about, she's invested in. With nearly 25 years experience working with business owners, governments and large funding bodies to merge money and meaning, Bessi's experience spans from the grassroots of sitting in the dirt, working with business owners across the Pacific Isles, through to the United Nations in Geneva. This has given her an unparalleled perspective as an entrepreneur, business owner, angel, venture capitalist, and impact investor, philanthropist, coach, and advisor. Bessi has done everything. I enjoyed this conversation a lot. Here's a taste of what you can expect in the episode with our promo track. How much would you build into that leadership discussion then? Narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, like the dark triad, if you like, that they talk about in psychology. Is that also part of that factoring when you think about the counterterrorism or the terrorism and bring that to leadership?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not actively going out trying to find and convert the worst possible business leaders and convince them to change. I'm very selective of who we work with and who we're trying to strengthen and build their businesses. So I wouldn't say all my energy is going into those elements you've just described. What I would say is that we all have shadow elements. All of us have intended and unintended elements of how our leadership styles and our behaviors are having impact in the world. And where it comes down to the conversations that I have with individual leaders, a lot of it actually goes even further back into many of the different ancient thinking traditions, whether it's ancient Greek philosophy or it's the Eastern traditions, of there's this common element that I think more leaders need to sit with, which is around really where we all start. And the most important foundational question is around know thyself, was the old ancient Greek way of saying it. But that level of self-awareness as a leader, being honest and tuned in to your own shadow sides, to those spaces where you might get pushed into behaving in a way that is neither helpful for the company or aligned with your identity of who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world. Those are all conversations that we need to create space for leaders to have, because I'm sure that you found this and probably is part of why you have this podcast. As leaders, very rarely are we regularly surrounded by or supported in a genuine way of having people who will call us out, people who will say things that we may not want to hear, or that will be a sounding board for us. And so I take really seriously that privilege that when there's trust and rapport there with a leader, part of my job is to put a spotlight, if you like, on things that might be uncomfortable, but that need to be addressed if that leader wants to actually break through to the next stage in their business.
I know these recaps are short, they're sweet, they're meant to be. They're only memory joggers that help trigger those forgotten conversations. So without further ado, let's recap on our final guest of quarter four. To do so, we're heading home literally within stone's throw of my own place on the Gold Coast in Australia and chatting with an extraordinary individual, a man who is an international marketing enigma. We had the pleasure of speaking with and learning from Mr. John Dwyer. John is a direct response customer attraction expert who thinks way outside the box. His marketing consultancy business is called the Institute of Wow. And John's mantra is that one's marketing needs to wow its prospects. He's also the guy who shocked the marketing world some years back when he convinced Jerry Seinfeld to come out of retirement to be the spokesperson for an Australian banking institution. Jerry headed up a free vacation campaign, which broke home loan lending records and remains folklore in the global banking industry. Absolutely no better way to end the year 2024. Check it out and judge for yourself. Let's get back into the marketing. I mean, this is where the real fame lies. You've created some of the most unique marketing campaigns, I think, at least in my limited circle. But Jerry Seinfeld, probably one of the biggest, one of the greatest claims to fame. What was the creative process for you behind that particular campaign?
Wayne, look, I come from the mindset of whether it's a corporate business or whether it's a fish and chip shop, that if you don't have a wow factor and you are a me too business, in other words, your solar panels are very similar to the solar panels from your competitor, okay? And in Australia, as you know, the big supermarket chains are Coles and Woolworths. They're very, very similar. I was the national marketing manager for the Woolworths organisation in my 20s. Tell you, if you basically squint your eyes and walk into a Coles or walk into a Woolworths supermarket, they're pretty much the same. And so my role was to create artificial wow factors. Apple doesn't need me. Apple's iPhone, it's got organic wow factors. There's nothing like it, and so therefore they don't need me. But 99% of other businesses that have a product which is very similar to their competitors, yeah, they need my sort of thinking or someone like me. And at Woolworths, what we would do, this was pre-digital, we would actually take ideas out of Tesco in London, and it would be, for example, if every time you spent $10, you'd get a stamp and you'd lick it and put it on a saver sheet. And when you saved up so many stamps, you got cookware and glassware for ridiculous prices, right? And then we got into scratch ticket games, whereby every time you spent $10, you got a scratch ticket. And of course, these days, Woolworths and Coles in Australia had borrowed from McDonald's Happy Meal toy philosophy. And if you spend $30, you get a toy. Okay, so Pest for Power, if you have an audience with children, then use children as one of your agents. I can tell you, having 6 children and not being able to say no, they are the biggest influencer for mum and dad. So what happened is that I had a bank as a client, as a building society actually called the Greater Building Society. And this was some years back. And they were the 250th biggest business in Australia. So they're not small, but they were certainly not the Commonwealth Bank. And the Commonwealth Bank in Australia is very much like Wells Fargo. If you're listening to this in America, it's the big bank. And so this smaller bank was a challenger brand. And if you're a challenger brand, then you should do things differently. And I said to them, look, I'm doing some TV commercials for a travel discount company. How about what I do is introduce you guys, and instead of giving away that 1% honeymoon rate to everyone when they get a home loan, which every bank does, like everyone does that. Why don't you give that 1% honeymoon rate to the travel company, and they'll give you a vacation that's worth double that because they're a wholesaler.
Well, from tomorrow, we kick off 2025 and we start the longest of our 4 challenges. In fact, we call it the Ultimate 5-Day Challenge. And the topic is Master the Art of Stakeholder Empowerment. Then in January, we host our virtual mastermind. It's a 4 2-hour session to immerse you. They're intense, but they're fantastic value. And then capping off Q1 of 2025 in March is our next masterclass. So if you thought we haven't been busy enough coming out of 2024, then there's some things to prepare yourself. Of course, we'll have our weekly podcast, we'll have our monthly live, we'll continue to do all the things we've done in 2024. We'll have some new things. We started last year with thought leaders. We're going to build that in 2025. So it's a big year ahead. And with that, Team ET, we've reached the end of this recap. Hopefully this short review has triggered some fond memories and perhaps flagged an episode that you wish to go back to for a second listen or watch. And as we move into the start of Q1 2025, we've got another exciting lineup of guests waiting to join us and share their stories, their insights, and their wisdom. So we truly hope that we'll see you again next week as we get started with the queen of the luxury business market, Miss Elizabeth Solaru. Until then, enjoy the year's celebrations. Happy New Year for tomorrow. Stay safe, stay healthy, and bye for now.